So I went to backflip off of a picnic table, and I did not test the picnic table to make sure it was bolted into the ground.
No.
I got on the end of it, and I went to flip. It flipped with me.
Oh no!
It just collapsed beneath me. I was in Dubai and I was doing parkour. They do not like parkour. And this guy who looked like a pedestrian told me that I was gonna hurt someone. It was a crowded area, but I was making sure that there was at least 50 feet of distance between me and anyone before I did anything. And so I politely was like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm a professional. Thank you so much. And I kind of like ushered him on. Then I did more tricks. And then he just beelined at me, like turned a complete right angle turn and just came right up to me. And I'm like, what's going on? And he like flashes a badge. He was the head of security of that complex that I was in. As he was walking at me, I was like, do I run? He was wearing flip-flops. I'm like, this guy's not catching me in flip-flops.
That is dressed down really.
Like, yeah, but he still looked good. I almost ran.
Wow.
And I don't know what would have happened if I had run.
The fact that he almost ran.
But so what happened, they put me in a basement with like 7 people that were all like,
stop, really?
Yeah.
No way.
They're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like, we told you not to do this. And they were asking me for my ID. And I was like, I don't have any ID on me. You can look at my YouTube channel. Like, my YouTube channel is my name. It's Omar Zaki. We're not looking you up on YouTube. We need an ID. And they made me like write an apology note. It was like, they told me to stop doing parkour. And I didn't. And I handed it back and they were like, no, write more. Tell them that you directly disobeyed the head of security. So Dubai is a beautiful place. Don't take that the wrong way. It's just that one bad experience.
So I can't top that story at all. Because one of the biggest like ones was in downtown. We needed a permit to film stuff or actually to execute parkour. That's the highest ranking thing I got kicked off on. Can we answer this together?
Sure. 1, 2, 3.
No. I mean, it'd be pretty cool. Like if you bring a zipline handy and like you're just jumping off high stuff, right? And you just penetrate the wall across from you.
The point of parkour is to be able to use your body to adapt naturally to a surrounding, not to like enhance it with this zipline thing. For me, the biggest misconception is that parkour athletes are adrenaline junkies. It is so opposite of what it means to be a parkour athlete. If you are doing parkour and you feel adrenaline, you're doing it wrong. Parkour is an analytical activity. You have to be completely mentally and physically present in every moment to be able to assess each move you're about to do, the context in which you're about to do it, and come to a conclusion of yes, I should do this, or no, I shouldn't do this. Parkour athletes can do amazing things because they train hard and they work hard, not because they're crazy.
So wall running, yes, it is possible. If you want to go to the top of the wall, then yeah, you can maybe take at most 2 or 3 steps and then to reach the highest point of the wall. And you can even use your hands to even push up higher over the wall too. Yeah. But if you're running on a slanted, it's definitely possible to run at least like maybe 6 or 7.
To like run along it?
Yeah, to run along it.
Depending on the slant, you get 6, 7, 10 steps depending on.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, I think so. There's like these 2 walls, it's called a Euro step. So you take a step on the wall and then tack, turn around.
You turn around.
And then go up the next wall and then you turn around, so he kept going up. If he falls, he falls. There's nothing to protect you from that.
So the shirt that I'm repping is from the team that I represent on World Chase Tag, Hollywood Freerunners. Again, I was chasing someone down and I misstepped and I ended up going down like at a very, very high velocity towards a wooden corner with like my face first. And I essentially like did this super dab into the corner of this wooden wall.
As a kid, I always loved jumping on things. I mean, before I knew it was even parkour, like you were already doing parkour.
Yeah, monkeys, just monkeying around, climbing things.
I mean, I also watched the movie Tarzan. That kind of helped too. And then years later it passed on and my friend actually told me about this gym called Tempest. I went and I took my first class and I never left. I've never felt so free in a sport.
I did tons of sports growing up. I did soccer, volleyball, track, swimming, diving.
Yeah.
And when I was 12, I remember seeing parkour videos online and I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And I immediately came to the conclusion that I could not do that. And then my stepdad was like, hey, a parkour gym just opened up. You should go. I bet you and your friend would like it. We fell head over heels. Just something about using your body to constantly overcome obstacles. That's what it is, like to physically overcome obstacles, and that feeling that you get of if you don't think you can do something and then immediately after you do it, you're like, oh, I'm much more capable than I think that I am.
The feeling is just so different than what other sports have. So I've never really gotten injured in parkour.
Lucky you.
I was climbing really, really high and my foot slipped and I fell and I landed on my hand and I dislocated my elbow. Internally, you hear a pop in your body. Full recovery took me about like 6 months.
Wow.
For a dislocated elbow. Oh yeah.
I had just learned backflip. I was 17. I wanted to impress a cute lifeguard that I was working with.
I was
working. So I went to backflip off of a picnic table, and I did not test the picnic table to make sure it was bolted into the ground.
No.
I got on the end of it and I went to flip. It flipped with me.
Oh no.
It just collapsed beneath me. I woke up in an ambulance 20 minutes later. I was fine. I had a minor concussion and my mom was over my head just shaking her head. It was 7:58 at night. We closed at 8 p.m. 2 minutes from closing.
Like, Omar, we want to go home.
Parkour it's a constant battle against fear, but it is a progression-based sport. So if you're afraid of something, you find ways to work around that. Then you convince yourself to do it without ever having to do something crazy. So you find ways to work around your fear, to work with your fear, rather than letting it hold you back.
Right. I mean, when you first start parkour, you're always going to start with the basics, you know, and the basics is not as scary because you're literally staying on the ground. But, you know, once you start progressing higher and higher and things that you want to get better at, you know, fear does come into play because you mentally have never done it before. And so like progression.
And there are consequences if you fail.
Yeah.
But you usually do things very easy in more difficult scenarios to work through that fear.
Yeah. The best thing I like read about is that like fear doesn't exist. You create it. So when I create my line, I like making sure that the hard move is done first, because once you are doing the other lines, you usually don't send it until like you're ready to go. Sometimes I like working either backwards or forwards with it. So in terms of movement, like let's say it's a safety vault to a Webster, to a side flip, and then to like a reverse. So like you just work your way through backwards or forwards to make it as precise as possible. And also remembering to breathe in between. I think that's really important.
For me, it's all about working your steps out ahead of time when you're building a line together to make sure that it flows smoothly, that you're not stutter stepping, because some tricks you want to use your right leg, some tricks you want to use your left leg, and you got to work all that stuff out ahead of time before you do your line. And then once you know, literally, you can almost see like your footprints on the ground before you even do the line. Then once you have all your feet set, then you're ready to go. I am mentally stronger when it comes to just life. Because of parkour and being constantly confronted with obstacles and doubting myself, and then always finding ways to work up to them, to work over them, to work through them in order to be able to overcome these obstacles. And I feel that translates to my life.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like also when I first started parkour, I'm a mentally stronger person because, you know, overcoming obstacles is very important, especially in life. Life, you hit obstacles all the time. And usually in parkour, you have to find your way out of it. And it's a discipline that you create within yourself and that you can establish and implement it in daily life. Parkour in a way just changed my life completely and how I live it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If it's a high point, depends how high what you're used to. You can pick whatever roll that's most comfortable for you, whether it's the barrel roll or the regular parkour roll, whichever one is less impactful for you.
Yeah, if it's a very small drop, like 2 to 4 feet, you can just land with your legs if you have good technique. That's called a 2-point landing. If it's a bigger drop, like maybe 4 feet to 6 feet to 8 feet, you can do a 4-point landing where you catch with your hands and your feet. Then if you're starting to do stuff bigger than that, then you need to start doing either a parkour roll or a barrel roll, just so you're not taking all that impact at one specific moment. You can kind of elongate the transfer of that energy.
I think my first biggest obstacle was actually flipping on concrete. I don't know what I was thinking back then, because like concrete is just hard. It's just hard floor. I mean, if you mess up, you mess up. It's gonna hurt. So I've been training a side flip very constantly in the gym. It's pretty much muscle memory. And then I was training outside with my friends and I see this beautiful takeoff with my side flip and I'm like, man, like I want to do it. And my hands are sweating and I'm like, you know, get the camera. Like I made a line out of it and I just went out with the side flip and I landed it and I was like, oh my God. And I'm like running around, like having like the most amazing feeling in the world. And I'm like, wow, like this is life.
For me, I think it was climbing a parking garage. It kind of had like, it was just a bunch of horizontal railings and you just go left, right. But as you get higher and higher, the brain starts to kick in, the fear starts to kick in, the hand starts to get sweaty. It's just like, it's not, the motion hasn't changed. You still go left, right. So why is your brain suddenly freaking out? And to be able to calm the mind and to be able to say like, I know you're freaking out, just relax, keep doing the same thing. Like we'll go really slow. And I ended up climbing the whole thing and I got up to the top and I looked down, 4 stories. And if you fall at the top, sorry, you're gonna be done.
Yeah. I think you can talk about yourself.
I'm trying to decide what injury to talk about. You're like, I haven't really been injured. I'm like, which injury should I pick? Oh, I forgot. I also landed on my head. That's the third injury.
Oh, you forgot.